Well, welcome back to Modeling Time with me, Brian Banna. In the introductory episode, we talked about the what I wanted to do with this B&M Boxcar, and I got the underframe painted black. I got the panels painted black and all that stuff. Well, now I've got the panels painted gray. So I've got the gray on, and I've got the excuse me, the gray painted on the roof walk. So that gray is out of this old and weathered wood pack from AK Interactive, and it is the AK 785 middle gray. Let's see if it'll. There we go, middle gray. So I thinned that almost 50%, maybe a little bit less, and the airbrush and stuff. Now, the video that I watched from AK Interactive is actually on their Volume 1 set, Old and Weathered Wood Volume 1, which is not like this gray wood. It's more like fresher wood and fresh cut wood and stuff like that. But the concepts are the same, so I'm kind of using that as a guide. So right now what I need to do, since I've got the gray put on the wood parts, I need to use the wash. Let's see if I can get that into focus. There we go. I need to use the wash and put over the wood. So let me get the camera set up. I'm at a different angle. If you notice in the background, there's really nothing but my photo booth back there. I'm at my paint desk. So let me get the camera set up over the work area, and let's apply this wash. Oh, real quick, I'm also doing another experiment. I'm having the hardest time getting my pin washes to work properly, to actually get any of this stuff to work properly. So I'm following the direction from the so-called experts in the modeling community, the military modeling community, on how to apply washes. And many times, I think one of the things that I have a complaint about with them is they never really tell you what your surface prep needs to be. And I found a few that did, and it says it should be a semi-gloss, a nice semi-gloss. So I took this ready-to-run car, this DT&I Walther's Boxcar, and I gave it a coat of Testors semi-gloss. Now I have a few bottles of this stuff still, and that's flat. That's flat. Here we go. Oh, that's gloss. There we go. It's this one. So I gave it a nice coat of that, thinned it about 50%, and shot it on. And it has a nice sheen to it. So I'm hoping that I can experiment on this Boxcar to get my pin washes to work right, because they're just not doing what I keep seeing the experts doing. Not even close. It's one of the reasons I think I hate weathering is because nothing works. I've watched these videos for years, and I still can't get anything to look even remotely like what they're doing. I know I'm not going to be exact, but come on, it's going to come out, at least acting the same. Like, for instance, the pin washes, they touch a bolt head, and it just nicely, hugs the bolt head. I touch a bolt head, and it just spreads out all over the place. So I know that's got to be the surface finish that causes that, but we'll see. I'm going to keep experimenting. In the end, I really don't care. Well, I guess I do care, but I like the way my freight cars are turning out, so I would just like to enjoy weathering instead of hating it. I'd like to be able to plan weathering instead of just winging it, and whatever happens, happens. So I'm going to keep experimenting. So let's get a wash on this car. Okay, so I just did a quick watch of the video again to make sure I'm not missing something. After he painted his wood, he did not seal it or put a satin finish or a gloss finish or a semi-gloss finish over it at all. So it's just the flat paint from the kit, which I have here. Now he's using this to highlight the panel lines and all that. Now, according to you know, a lot of the videos I watch, you use this right out of the bottle. But watching this video, the AK Interactive video, the person thins this about 50%. So I am going to, it's not an exact 50%, but he says 50% or more. So I am going to get some out, just like he did. He just used a brush, dipped it in there, put it in the tray. He had a little bowl. And then, seal that up. Then he used white spirit, which is, you know, I get this stuff here, which is mineral spirits, the Winsor & Newton Artist White Spirit. And I will take a pipette, and let me do about 50% there. All right. Now we will get a brush out here. Mix that up. And all they did is wipe it onto the model. He said it was more like a filter than a wash, which is fine. So once this application is done, there'll be no wiping it off like you do with a wash or a pin wash. And he just wiped it over everything. Now, his example was a barrel, which of course is going to be wiped over everything. All right, so that's the application on that side. And now, let me just flip it over. I don't have to worry because the wood's recessed, so it's not going to soak in, you know, soak it off into the paper towel. Let's do, whoops, sorry. Let's do this side. This is going to be interesting to see how it all comes out. Now he says to keep mixing this, you know, don't let it settle. That way you'll keep the color in it. I don't want it to really dry too thick along the ladder rungs. Whoop, I don't want to do that. All right, so that takes care of the wood on the boxcar sides. So I'm going to let that, as you'll notice when I put it upright like that, you see the color collecting down at the bottom. So I'm just going to wick that away. This part will be steel down here, so that's okay. So I'm just going to wick that away. Same with on this side. Kind of like how the wood looks like that. and around the ladder rungs. Alright, let's see how this side's looking. Yep, it's still draining down. I am going to actually go ahead and keep this car probably laying on its side. Probably keep it laying on its side like that so that the color doesn't all run out of it. So I'm going to put that aside, and now we just do the roof walk. Well, I really like how that's turning out. Make sure I'm still okay. Let me zoom in a little bit. Where are we at here? I can't see my camera. There we go. See, all the detail just pops right out. I gotta make sure I get the sides and underneath, even though we won't be weathering underneath really, at least it'll help to give it the shadow. I don't really care about the underside of it, so do that. Now let me do a little bit more on top where it might have got wiped off. Alright, so that takes care of putting the wash on the boxcar. Now we just got to let that dry. I let that dry overnight or a couple days. Takes a while for enamels to dry, so we'll see. All right, so you saw me put the weathering or the weathering wash over the wood, and I let that dry overnight, and this is what it looks like since it's dried overnight. There we go. That's better. I really like how that wash filled in all the recesses and the grains and stuff, and I like how that looks a lot. And here's the roof walk. There we go. So I was going to go ahead and do a dry brush over this wood, and I did a little bit of a test on this piece, just a tiny bit, as well as on here. It doesn't work. There's not enough relief in the wood to grab any of the paint off the brush and leaves highlights. Besides that, thinking about it, the amount of paint that's going to be chipped off of the wooden portion is going to be very, very small. So any highlights that I put on there wouldn't even be seen anyway, so it's kind of a waste of time. I mean, the exercise would be good, but again, like I said, there's not enough relief to grab paint to show highlights. And if I put too much paint on the brush to grab the smallest little bits of relief on there, well, I would probably end up just smearing paint on the wood, and it just wouldn't look good. So I'm going to forego the highlights. So the next step on this is to shoot a satin varnish over it to seal it, and then I can mask it and get the the metal chipping color painted on. Now, in the comments section, if you want to see me do any masking, just let me know. It'd be pretty boring. All it is cutting bits and pieces of tape and laying them into these panels so that I can protect the wood and paint all the metal parts. It's not that big of a deal. So that's the next thing, is just get a varnish on that so that I can mask it and get the metal color on it. So the other things I've been working on is this Boxcar. This is a what is this? Walther's mainline Boxcar, ready to run Boxcar, and I'm using it as an experiment also. Watching videos, I'm trying to get better at doing pin washes and oil washes and stuff like that. And basically, the way that I've been doing stuff is I shoot the car in a flat finish, then I will do a light wash where it's like 90% thinner and 10% color to give some, give the car a dirty, dusty look to it. I'll do like maybe 3, 4, 5 applications of that. And then I'd go in and I'd try to do a pin wash, and the pin wash would just spread out all over the car, and that's because of the flat finish. It soaks it up and it just bleeds out into the car. And in some instances, that's pretty cool, and it makes a neat effect. But I'm trying to get to that point where I can do like just highlight the details, the bolt heads, the panel lines, and things like that. And I haven't been able to get that to work. So I've been watching videos, and a couple of videos say put a satin finish on. So I put a satin finish on this car. Didn't work. It still just bled out into the paint. And then it looks like the majority of videos I'm watching say put a gloss finish on it. So that's what I bought. I put a gloss finish on that car, and I'm using black artist oil mixed up in the consistency that I can see them making in the videos, and it seems to be working okay. It does, spread out a little bit, and there's two camps. One says just paint the whole car in your artist oil wash, and it'll settle into the nooks and crannies and the recesses and panel lines and bolt heads and things like that. The other says just put it on and let capillary action, put it on the joint or the bolt head or whatever, and let capillary action work. Well, it worked a little bit on the roof of the car. As you can see, let me see if I can get that focused in. There's some black outlines along the roof panels and stuff like that. But I went to the ends of the car, and they're glossed the same as the roof and the sides, and it wouldn't run. So I just slathered it all over the end, and then once it's dry, I use one of these types of Q-tips. I can get them at Walmart. I got these at Ulta, and just go in there and just clean it up. Typically, I would use like mineral spirits and clean it up with a brush, but I'm finding that mineral spirits just kind of spreads it around. So I wanted a contrast between the joints or the rivet heads or the seams or whatever and the original paint. So that's where this comes in, and it just rubs it off. But a lot of times it rubbed off in the joints and the seams, and it's just depressing. It's like, how can I make this thing work? I'm like, damn, what am I not doing right? But I'll get to it. That's fine. And then all I have left to do are the sides of the car on both sides. And then I'll put a flat finish over it. And then I'm going to do pigments over that. I like pigments, and for a long time I was like, why can't I paint this stuff on? Why do I have to use pigments? And now I'm to the point where it's like, who gives a crap if you use pigments? If it looks good, it looks good. Use it. Use what looks good. Don't think that pigments are a crutch. Think of it as you work better with pigments than with paint. So I'm going to try to do both and stuff. So the roof is going to get, more pigments settled in. It's kind of like this car. The roof of this car, I don't know if you can see it well. Let me see if I can get some light on it. Does that work? No, that doesn't work too well. But anyway, the roof of this car was done with pigments. And basically what I did, and I'm not going to do like this on this car. It'll get toned down like the car I'm going to show you in a second. But this one, put a layer of pigments on, and then I mist on pigment fixer. Basically, get back here and just let the mist fall on the car. And then where the mist falls, it typically darkens that area and leaves the lighter misted areas still a lighter color. And then I'll come back and put more rusts or browns or whatever in, and I'll go and mist it again. And it just, after this is probably about 5 or 6 layers of pigments, that created that completely rusted roof effect. What I want to try to do with this car is something that I did with this car, and that is to get the browns and stuff into the areas of just around the roof walk and stuff, and then mist it, and then do some more browns in there and get it, fade it off as it's coming down the car and stuff like that. And then I'll do the bottom of the car similar to that with pigments, and then hit it with pigment setting solution, and then come in and do some of the ribs and things like that. So that's what I'm going to do for this car. This car is going to be fairly dirty. Mostly I don't do super dirty cars, but I want to try that with this car and see how it turns out. So getting back to the subject at hand, this car, so the next time you see it, it should have, unless you guys want to see the masking, it'll have all of the metal parts painted in a chipping color, which I mixed up. I had a bottle of the, what is that, the Ammo Mig Jimenez chipping color, and I just duplicated that in Tamiya paint. So it's basically just a dark brown. You can make it, vary the colors of the brown and stuff like that, add more black to it, add less black to it, whatever. But you want it to have like a patina look to it, I guess, or something like that. So I'll spray all the metal parts with this stuff, which is when you chip the paint off and then you put a clear coat over it, it really makes those chips pop and look like rusted steel or steel that's been out in the weather for a long time. It's not necessarily like crusty rusted, but it has that dark brownish black look to it. So anyway, again, sorry I couldn't do the dry brushing. It was just not going to work, and it was going to be a waste of our time. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll catch you next time.